Hey guys, welcome out to Revolution this morning. We're going to look at part 6 of Scrivener's 190 differences between his text and Theodore Beza's according to changes made by the 1611 translators. And so if you want to get a rundown on the basics of these videos, go through the first video in this playlist, and that will help you. So that will be Matthew 1, 8, and 9. So we've looked at these other videos. We're looking now at Archon Ice. And so this is what Scrivener has changed his text to. So we're looking at Matthew 9:18, Archon Ice. And then we're looking, so the Competency and Polyglot has that reading, the Vulgate has that reading. Then we have, in Theodore Beza's, in all his editions, we have Archon without the ice there. So is this necessary? Is this a necessary change? Okay, so let's just have a quick look at this. So that's exactly what was written there that I just read out. And so you can clearly see that is what is written here in what I just read out in Scrivener's 1881 appendix at the end of his 1881 Greek New Testament. So if we go to his testament, we see the ice here and we see the asterisks. Now I've also got that lined up here. This is from Hathi Trust. They've got the whole thing printed out. So like I've said, these bolden ones with the numbers are to do with the Westcott and Hort text. That's where they're changing things. But this is basically the Textus Receptus text. This is all these words are what you'll find in the Trinitarian Bible Society Textus Receptus, and you won't find these little notes here and there. They've just taken those out because these were served a purpose for the translation committee of 1881. And so when we see ice with the asterisk, that means it's part of the 190 differences. When we see these down here, we have a list of words that change, the things that are omitted, and that's according to the Westcott and Hort text. So we don't need to bother with that at the moment. We're just looking at the 190 list at the back. So we're in chapter 3, it's verse 18, and we see that it has included this word ice, where if we look at Theodore Beza's text, verse 18 here, he has the archon, but he doesn't have ice there. And so I'll just show you the difference there. Oops. So here we have archon ice. So idhu, that's behold or look or lo, archon ice. And so archon obviously related to like the first, or in the NRK and her logos, it's like in the beginning, or so sometimes people are called like archon, so like the chief priests, and so yeah, the chief priests of the synagogue sort of thing are called like the first in the pecking order. So, but Scrivener felt like when he read the King James, he thought, hang on, they've actually deviated from Theodore Beza and they've added ice into their underlying text. So I'm going to put that in there. So is this something that he should have done? See, it has idhu archon there. Now, so I'll just shut those down because we've already looked at them. So let's just go through this. So we've gone through these two pictures. Actually, we've gone through Beza's as well. We can see those. And so I've just put those pictures there. Now that's zoomed into like 175, so that's why it's blurry. If I go to normal, they're very tiny. And so that's why I'm doing it that way. So, oops, and then I lose my spot. So I'll just go back up to 175. Okay, that's helpful. Now, I'll open the King James. Let's have a look at what that says. Okay, so notice he's got Mark 5:22 here. Luke 8:41 will be another interesting one to look at. Luke 8:41 KJV. Okay, so I'll look at that in a second. Well, I've already looked at Mark 5:22. So while he spake these things unto them, behold, there came a certain ruler and worshipped him, saying, My daughter is even now dead, but come and lay thy hand upon her, and she shall live. And so what we're concerned about is there came a certain ruler. So we know the word ruler, the archon is there. So that's a ruler, someone who's at the beginning of the top of the pyramid sort of thing. There came a certain. So certain is where the word ice is concerned. So that's translated through. Or that's what Theodore Beza, in his text, he doesn't have the ice there. So Scrivener's looked at this certain. He's gone, well, that should really be ice. And so let's have a look. And I believe that I can easily prove that this ice is unnecessary, that Scrivener has put it in because he's sort of following the Vulgate, following the Complutensian polyglot. But I don't think that the King James translators use this. So let's have a look. All of Beza's editions just have archon. Stephanus's editions have archon. Erasmus's editions all have archon. Complutensian polyglot has archon ice. So that's 1514. So the King James version, I've left it blank there because, in a sense, where it's like, well, the ice doesn't translate through because we don't really need it. In a sense, where I'm saying they followed the 1598 of Theodore Beza, and this certain ruler is included in that. How do we know that? Well, we can see by I've actually sort of done these upside down. I probably need to go from 1516 all the way up. I've gone the opposite way than I usually do. Probably didn't have a coffee that day, but you can see the archon that's basically the TR reading. Okay, so the Complutensian polyglot, they have archon ice, and so these guys were very close to the Latin Vulgate as well, and so the Vulgate has the reading as well. So I'm not saying that they just basically put it in because of the Vulgate, but I'm saying that they would have favoured those type of readings because of the Vulgate. Sometimes the Complutensian polyglot went against the Vulgate, so you can't just say, oh, it's just following the Vulgate, At times it is, though, but not always. So in other English versions, so if we read through these English versions, according to Scrivener's logic, it shouldn't say a certain ruler, okay? It should just say a ruler, because the ice isn't there. The ice is not there in Erasmus's and Stephan. So we're talking about, Tyndale and a whole bunch of others based upon these. So let's have a look. Tyndale, lo, there came a certain ruler. So that certain ruler is simply by looking at, I'm pretty sure it was 1522 of Erasmus, it's the archon. It's not archon ice. So he got certain out of that word, certain ruler out of that word. Again, Tyndale, behold, there came a certain ruler. And so by then he would have probably been looking at Erasmus's other editions. And no doubt these guys knew the Complutensian polyglot, but this reading isn't in there. And it's not, they don't have marginal notes pointing to, oh, we've gone with this other reading. So all the English versions have a certain ruler, a certain ruler, a certain ruler, all the way down to the 1611 has certain ruler. And so I'll just read through this. and sometimes I've written this like 10 years ago. Sometimes I've written it, last week, but um, I'll just read through and hopefully this is orthodox, because sometimes I do change my mind halfway through reading. I'm like, actually, that's not really true. Or, sometimes there's new light shed upon things, and it wouldn't change the whole concept, but just tiny little crumbs of information I can get wrong, and so that's why I'm constantly going through my material, updating things. Why did Scrivener claim that the King James Version follows the Complutensian reading when the above English Bibles have the same reading without any Greek text with ice? Green, in his 1976 interlinear of Scrivener, has one above ice, but considers it unimportant. And in the LITB translation on the side, he has, behold, coming up, a ruler bowed before him. So he doesn't have a certain ruler. So he's, in just translating that, I guess he sort of overreacted to Scrivener, and doesn't really, he's sort of like ice is just a ruler. He also leaves the ice untranslated. In his interlinear Greek New Testament, third edition, he has, behold, coming, one ruler worshipped him, and ice has one above it. So that's where he's putting it as one, ice meaning one. So a certain ruler, or one certain person, or a person. So Sotahiates and the Online Bible both have ice meaning a certain. Okay, so they're going, with what Scrivener says, and so see also 918. That is 918. Okay, that's a redundant footnote there. But so yeah, that's the this is the Greens one here. If you're not really sure what I was talking about, so that's the Interlinear Bible. If we zip open to Matthew chapter 9, we can clearly see that 9:18. Behold, coming up, a ruler bow down before him. So he doesn't, even though Scrivener has ice here, he doesn't even translate that. It's kind of strange, because you'd think with the ice there he would, and so he has in his interlinear, he has, behold, a ruler, one coming, worshipped him. So he definitely has the ice meaning one. But I think the thing is, it's kind of redundant. And so I think you can see, just simply by the way that these English translations have used certain ruler, they obviously translated from Archon. They didn't need ice to come up with certain. And so I think this is unnecessary. I think ice is not needed in the Textus Scrivener, and that should just be omitted, should be deleted. It hasn't been used in the past to get that result, and why should the King James translators have to have used that if the guys in the past didn't use that? So what I would probably do to further this study is, if you've watched this and you're like, okay, that's interesting, I would probably go in the direction of looking at the other translations of that era, Martin Luther, and go through the German Bibles. I'd go through French Bibles, Italian, and just see how they translated this from those readings of that era. So I think that gives you a good understanding of why I think ice is unnecessary there. Now, this morning I found, I was just looking through Theodore Beza's text. Where are we? Here. So he has just Archon. Now, if we go down the bottom of the page, no, actually, I'll just go back up. So he has the archon. So he has like three little dots here. Now these three little dots basically always, this is in his Latin translation, they always point down to the apparatus at the bottom, or the annotationis. So the annotations of Beza. This is in his 1598. Now notice he has synagogue in italics there. I'm just going to check and see if that is in italics. Matthew 9:18, KJV. So he's actually added, behold, there came a certain ruler from the synagogue and worshipped him. And so, but he's put it in italics. And so the italics there show that he doesn't think it's in the Greek. If you just follow the Greek, that's fine. This is his own Bible translation into Latin. And so we see, the synagogue is not there. So in the footnotes, he seems to point, so he is 18, and he's got synagogue there in the brackets there. And he has archon. So notice here he has quidam praefectus, and then he has synagogue. So this would be a certain one of the synagogue, and that's all encompassed in the Greek word archon. So that's quite interesting. So that shows that beside the issue of synagogue being there, that's obviously in italics anyway, so that he's saying that that's just added information to help people. But if we were just to look at the Latin, we would see that the archon is quidam praefectus. So I've just opened up, I typed this out this morning. So quidam praefectus means a certain prefect. And so notice it's got a certain there. So what we're seeing is Theodore Beza, he thinks that these Latin words here are equivalent to this one Greek word here. And I agree with him. And I'm pretty sure everyone in the Reformation agree with him. But Scrivener doesn't agree with him. Now, sometimes I can be a bit nasty with Scrivener because of these things. But so I'm just going to just quickly look at, so what we're going to do, we're going to go and check some of these verses, but then we're going to also have a look at the other Greek texts. And I'll just show you that sometimes Scrivener is actually favoring the Westcott and Hort readings. And so he's sort of saying, well, I think it should have ice there. Let's just put it in because Westcott and Hort have it in there. So what I'll do, so in this annotationis, we have Mark 5:22, and we also saw that there was Matthew 9:18, actually, no, Luke 8:24. So it has, and behold, there came a certain man named Jairus. He was the ruler of the synagogue. So that's why Beza puts the synagogue in there. He's sort of looking at the synoptics and going, okay, well, it says synagogue in these other places. Let's put that in there in the italics, in the brackets, so people don't get confused about who this is. Where the King James translators felt that was completely unnecessary. They didn't put synagogue there. I don't think that there's any marginal note there at all, notifying anyone about that. So this is Mark 5:22. Kai idu erkatai eis to archisunagogon, archisunagogon, which is quite a mouthful, but it's like the chief priest or something like that. So this is 5. So archisunagogon. It's quite a mouthful. So let's just go to the parallel. We'll see what the King James says. King James says, "Behold, there cometh one of the rulers of the synagogue." One of the rulers of the synagogue. And so that is, so notice here, they have the ice here as well. So that's one of the rulers of the synagogue. So they have that there. But I think it's completely unnecessary, as I was showing you before. The other English versions, in this place, they just have a certain ruler. Okay. So where am I going to go from there? I'm going to have a quick look at, let's look at Matthew 9:18. And we'll look at the Greek texts, because here we have ice. Now, so it's really good to know how to do Control F, and this little box comes up here, and you can search for these words, so it's a lot quicker. But if you go through, you know, the newer texts that are coming through, they've got ice. Whoa, Westcott and Horde has ice. Just so happens to have ice. The 27 variants, 28 variants all have ice. Majority text, Orthodox Church, and then we have Scriveners, but then the TR editions don't have ice, and they haven't needed to have ice there. So this has been something, this is a critical text reading, in a sense where if you were to categorize this, I mean, you'd have to say, well, it's definitely a Westcott and Hort reading. So this is problematic for me, because I just think that the evidence is all there that a certain ruler came from Archon, and we didn't need to add the ice there. It's just completely unnecessary. And so, if you were going to do more study on this, I'd go click on that one, Matthew 9:18, on my site, where I've typed out this. And if you know Latin, you can go through that and see the reasoning behind the synagogue, of why that was put in there in the brackets in Theodore Beza's translation. But in his Greek, he just has Archon, and that translates over to a certain ruler. So I think we have the testimony of the English, we have the testimony of the Textus Receptus, we have the testimony of Theodore Beza, and I can't see why a certain ruler, which has always come from Archon, needs this other word, ice, which is actually related to the critical text. And so I just don't think that's necessary. So anyway, I think you can see where I'm coming from. So that's number 6. So we've got a fair way to go through these. I'll just see, I might make another one. But I'll just add and delete a few things here. As I read through them, I see things and I think, well, that needs deleting or whatever. But thanks for joining us, guys. I'm going to leave it there and just cut it short, because I want to get through all these. And so God bless you, and we'll see you in the next video.